What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the College Football After Dark right here on the Voice of College Football. Make sure, hit that like button, please. Consider subscribing if you're new here. You're going to find everything for your team, including the Big 10 channel, Big 12 channel, and just a bunch of college football teams, and a lot of the great hosts like here that talk football all the time, just like Mark does. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight? Please go ahead. Also promote yourselves, the normal. Jordan, introduce and where people find you down the line.
I'm Jordan, otherwise known as Tyler from Spartanburg's Muse. You can find me over on the Clemson channel, Voice of College Football channel. I do a show with Tiger Paul Craven every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, called The All-In Show, and I also do host the Clemson Post Game Live. So be sure to check us out there.
How about you, Tim? How you doing?
I am doing fantastic today. Matter of fact, one of the better Sundays. This is the happiest I've ever been after a loss since the Stanford game a couple of years ago. So I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for asking, Ben. You can find me on all the USC Voice of College Football USC channel shows, literally all of them. Post game show, call-in show, and our usually Monday night show, which is a Church and Conquest Live, which we'll probably be doing which we are doing at 6:00 on Thursday this week. No, sorry, my mistake. Got that totally wrong. That's for their sorry. We'll be doing it at 7:00 on Tuesday. My mistake.
Beautiful. Mike, where do you creep people at?
Nowhere. Jackson.
Well, I'm Jackson Johnson, and I'm, co-hosting on College Football After Dark. And you can find my latest episode of the Jacksonian, where I have Cody Stovall, the host of Oklahoma State from Friday, and it was a blast, let me tell you. And we also talk a little bit about it was we talked about the last edition of the Bedlam, and so many fun topics. We also give our takes on Mike Gundy, if he's good, bad, or ugly for Oklahoma State, and why game day and mid-noon kickoff made a fatal mistake turning down the Bedlam. You can also find me on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter, of course.
That we can. And I'm just Ben of Exploring with Ben and Sam here. Find my Twitter link right below my name there, Exploring with Ben, as well as on the Tuesday weekly show right on the Oregon channel here, the Voice of College Football, as well as the Oregon post-game shows, and basically every Sunday right here on the After Dark show, except for next week. But we can we'll worry about that next week. So, gentlemen, Tim, this is right in your wheelhouse. I know you're super excited because the biggest news of the day that came out, and I don't think you ever thought it would ever happen, not during the season especially, but USC did finally pull the plug, whether for pressure reasons by the AD or boosters but Alex Grinch was officially fired.
Well, when you're consistently giving up the yards and the points that USC is giving, I'll be honest with you, I think this has been in the works for quite some time. I think the latest that this situation was, I think that they're going to try to write it out with Grinch. Not that he was going to be retained, but after they lost that game at Utah, the way they lost that, the game was in hand. Utah is not a very good offensive team. They just really aren't. But giving up 572 yards and 52 points to a very good Washington team, but the way it was done, and not being able to get stops, constantly just giving up plays on 3rd and long, 4th and 6, and just not getting off the field. That's not bad because that's Washington. But giving up 482 yards to Utah, right? Making Bryson Barnes look like the next coming of Vince Young out there running and scrambling to get set up that field goal. I mean, it was pretty embarrassing. Giving up 527 yards to California, a struggling California team, that scored 49 points and could have gone for 2 and won that game. I think when you add it all up, it's just been coming along for a while now. It got so bad. I don't think they wanted to fire him in season, but at this point, just to save face, it had to be done. No one wants to see a guy get fired, but clearly this wasn't the right job or the right place for Grinch to be successful. And it was almost like they're doing him a kindness by just pulling the plug, because watching that man go out there each week and just losing his mind, because these kids just weren't picking up his schemes and his system. There were definitely issues with the kids lining up properly, knowing their assignments, being gap sound. It was just a mess. And guys running around shouting at each other, trying to get in position. It was just a bad scene. And I think they finally realized this just wasn't going to happen, and they pulled the plug. But good news, all you Big Ten fans, now you get to face Lincoln Riley with a competent defensive coordinator. So you got that to worry about going forward.
Well, let's we'll see what hire he ends up making. But in all seriousness, I mean, this kind of reminds me, like, I mean, I've definitely been in this kind of situation. Like, it feels like this might be like Lincoln Riley's, like, Kevin Steele type of situation. Like when Clemson fired Kevin Steele, ironically, who's doing really well at Alabama now, but when Clemson fired Kevin Steele after the Orange Bowl debacle, one of the worst losses in school history. Obviously that ended up being one of the best decisions and one of the best things that could have happened for Clemson in that moment. So, maybe giving up, and really, I guess for USC, there wasn't any one particular game. It was just pretty much week to week, giving up a lot of yards, a lot of points, a lot of, poor tackling, poor, coverage discipline, just poor fundamentals, like stuff like that. So, I think this is a really big, like, hinge point for Lincoln Riley, as a coach, because, I mean, as much as we like to think that, as long as Lincoln Riley's been in the sport, like, he's still really green as a head coach, all things considered. I mean, and even he's been a head coach for 7 seasons, 8.
Yeah, eighth season. Yeah.
Yeah. The coaches don't have it all figured out, even by then. So it doesn't really mean that, he gets a lot of criticism for a lot of the stuff that has, a lot of the issues with his defenses in the past, but I still think this is something that he can grow from. I mean, I don't think coaches ever just stay the same their entire career. So this is a big, opportunity for him.
Yeah, and people say he can never hire the right defense. He's only hired one defensive coordinator. So remember, he inherited Mike Stoops, and that was a mess.
And he made the necessary change the day after they lost 51-48. No, wait, 48-45 against Texas in 2018.
And then he hired on Grinch in 2019. In 2020, actually, he had in the COVID year had a pretty decent defense. In 2021, he didn't. And who knows what would have happened if he had stayed at Oklahoma, but he comes to SC late in the game, kind of hard to pick up a defensive coordinator. I'm just trying to get what was in his mind. He rides with Grinch, sings maybe something from the 2020 season, thinking I'm going to get some different recruits here in LA. They bring him in. Last season does not go to plan, but USC did not have the athletes in 2021. Come in, they get a bunch of guys here with Grinch. He has to decide after the Cotton Bowl debacle. He's going, okay, do I ride with Grinch and hope that we can add the pieces we need to become a decent defense? Or do I pull the plug, bring in a new defensive coordinator? And we all know, rarely does a DC come right in and kick ass. It can happen. I'm going to say it can't. But a lot of times there's a growing period for that DC in their first year. Like, guys are learning the scheme, issues all over the place. And then in year 2, after you've installed the basics, then you can start actually tweaking your defense and get it moving. And you're kind of seeing that with Jim Knowles this year, right? Look at Ohio State's defense last year, and then look at Ohio State's defense this year. It's going to improve from year 1 to year 2. It just didn't get better here at USC with Grinch. Matter of fact, literally statistically, it got worse. It's truly, this very well could be statistically the worst defense in USC history coming up this year. They're already horrifically low. I think like 125th in scoring defense, and then we'll go up to Austin to play Oregon next year. So you know that number might go even lower. You know what I mean? So it's rough.
Oh, and-
What
and
I will say
again-
is I think there's a bunch of candidates out there that USC, if they were to get them, like again, you just look at any of the top like 8 candidates out there that they keep talking about. If USC lands guys that good, I'm very confident us going into the Big Ten.
Well, and again,
I got a question for you, Tim. Do you think Lincoln Riley could add Ruffin McNeil to his staff, or no?
I really don't know. I don't know what. Honestly, all the names that are being said, I'll tell you now. My guess is the field. We keep hearing all these guys coming up, this and that. I think it's going to come somewhere out of left field. You know, I really do. I hope not. I mean, Jim Leonard is the obvious pick. You know, everyone says he wants to go to the NFL. Well, the best way to go to the NFL and be an NFL coach is to do well at a school like Alabama or USC. It's historically proven that way. You do well as a coordinator, either one of those schools, you're going to get an NFL gig or you get a college head coaching gig, not at some, say, well, Jim Leonard's not going to take a coordinator position because he wants to be a head coach. Really? You think he wants to be the coordinator at Akron, or some MAC team? Or do you think you'd rather go make more money by becoming a well, not maybe more money, yeah, probably equivalent money, being the DC at USC for a year or two, and then maybe getting, maybe some interviews for NFL jobs? It's something to think about.
Well, it does have to, I mean, that's, we've seen it, especially you and I, because we walk Pac-12. So I watch the USC games. It is tough to watch. Yeah. Like you said, like Utah, watch this guy that has done nothing have like a Heisman night, like week in and week out against a defense. What do you guys think? Because I know you guys were talking about it on your live show earlier during the call-in, but what is your expectation for the defense going forward? Because I know they said your interims are your linebacker coach and was it the DB coach?
Line coach. Yeah, Sean
The
Nua,
line coach.
the Michigan guys know he's our defensive line coach, and then we have Brian Odom, who's our inside linebacker coach. Odom was the interim DC for Oklahoma after Riley and Grinch left for their bowl game. Obviously, hasn't called a lot of plays. Sean Nua has never called any plays. I heard the quote was that Nua said they're just going to peel back the defense, simplify it for everybody, and just go at them and let athletes make plays. I think that's what USC. Who knows? It can't be, again, when you're 125th in the country, it can't be worse. Whatever we see out there. And the beautiful thing is with USC's offense, you just have to be a little. If it gets just a little better, am I optimistic that happens? I'm not optimistic. I mean, as much as you want to say it, about Grinch, the man is his scheme. So who better to know what adjustments need to be made at halftime than the guy whose scheme it is? We're going up against Oregon, who has superior coaches. I don't know. Ben, no, not disparaging here. You guys got a good offense, but I'm not sold on your DC being a masterful X and O guy. But I do know there's a guy named Chip Kelly. We're playing at UCLA, and I think Chip Kelly is absolutely going to school these two guys at halftime. Come out with some adjustments in the second half of the UCLA game, and it might be pretty scary.
Oh yeah, I mean that's something that's going to be interesting to see this next week. What the change is in compared to like when the Grinch was running it to now having your interns, especially going to Autzen. It's going to be interesting to see what the difference is, because I think that's what you have to do. Just simplify it to the extent from going from that system to just base, like almost like a base defense, and just let people do their stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do, because and just hope for the best, because you're going to Autzen, place where USC historically doesn't play well. You're going up against the top 5. Probably, are you guys top 5 now?
6.
Right now, 6.
6. So you guys, okay. So you guys are 6th in the country, and you guys have Bo Nix is playing well. Bucky Irving's going to give us. Bucky Irving's probably go for 2 bills. I mean, it's going to be what it is. I'm looking forward to next year, because I think the next 2 games might be a bit hard on the eyes for any Trojan fan. I might need your shades, Jackson, for that game.
Well, you can have one. My eyes get done healing.
All right. Well, you got 5 more days.
Yep. We're gonna see, because we got this week coming up. We know what's gonna happen next Saturday, and it's gonna be a game. It's a night game too. so the lights are going to be on in Autzen, and it's going to be fun. I do expect kind of a shootout still, no matter what, on both sides. You know, we're going to give up points. Let's go on to, as we have it here, the actual contenders and pretenders. Who to everyone here is the actual contenders of their conference? And I mean, I've got Tim here, so he and I know us, but Jordan, the ACC, because it's not Clemson, unfortunately, for you, Jordan. Clemson is pretty much done. You're done in the ACC. But for you, as the ACC guy, like, who do you see as the actual, you know, top two, maybe even the one team that's kind of the outlier that still has a strong potential chance to challenge?
I mean, it's pretty clear at this point. I mean, Florida State and Louisville seems to be the most likely outcome right now. I mean, there's still a couple of teams with an outside chance. You know, I thought Virginia Tech obviously had a chance to kind of stake their claim in the second, but which is not something I expected to be saying at the beginning of the year. They really turned their season around, but Saturday was pretty rough for them. Duke is still hanging around. You know, they're banged up. I think a loss or two is coming down the road for them. They've had such a good season, but Riley Leonard is limited, and you know, their depth is kind of showing a little bit. So I mean, I think Florida State Louisville is pretty clear. I mean, Louisville really just had that one hiccup against Pitt, but they've been really good, you know, outside of that. And I don't think Louisville has gotten enough national respect, probably because of that Pitt loss. But you know, they did, you know, pretty handily beat Notre Dame at home. You know, they've been a tough team in year one under Jeff Brom. You know, they loaded with transfer players. So I mean, but I think Florida State Louisville probably the matchup in Charlotte. But we'll see. There's still some games to be played. Florida State is a certainty at this point, but Louisville is probably likely. But we'll see.
And Mike, you obviously are, until next year. Right now, you're the Big Ten guy.
I'm the Big Ten guy. Now, as far as the East, right now, there's three teams still in contention. That's Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. Now, Penn State's kind of on the outside looking in. They would have to beat us. We would have to beat Ohio State, and they would have to kind of win some funky three-way tie rules. It's technically possible, not likely going to happen. The most likely scenario is going to be 11-0 Michigan versus 11-0 Ohio State on November 25th. And the winner of that is probably going to play Iowa, because there was kind of a big hodgepodge in the Big Ten West. But fortunately for Iowa, every last team that could possibly contend for the Big Ten West title got upset. Nebraska was technically in it. They lost to Michigan State, which is arguably the worst team in the Big Ten. Minnesota lost. Wisconsin lost. I mean, both these teams lost to, you know, inferior talent. And Iowa squeaked out a 10-7 game against Northwestern, mighty Northwestern, and
Wrigley Field.
Yep, the Wrigley Field game. So Iowa at 7-2. They could, you know, drool on themselves and still win the Big Ten West at this point. So the likely scenario will either be Iowa versus either Michigan or Ohio State, at which point Iowa loses to Michigan or Ohio State. And shout out to Erica. She just brought up a super chat because apparently Grinch wasn't the only one who got fired recently as a coordinator.
Yep. It's the man that was at Iowa, Brian Ferentz. He's only going to be there for the rest of this year, so that we do know.
And I got to give it up to girl power here, because both these coordinators, people have been wanting them gone. They've been deserved to be gone. And both of the people who kind of pulled the trigger on this was Beth at Ohio State, at Iowa, and Jen over at USC. So it looks like women are finally stepping up and doing what men should have been doing for a long time before them.
Yeah, I mean, we basically learned that Kurt Ferentz does not have Iowa football with an iron fist anymore. I mean, now he says that he's going to be coaching until he has no more passion, which, let's be honest, that's a PR statement. I mean, we don't know if he's staying after 2023. I mean, he says he's staying right now, but let's see what happens the day after Black Friday against Nebraska.
Well, we'll see what happens when Phil Parker becomes the new USC defensive coordinator.
Ouch.
Hey, that would be something. That would be a hell of a pull.
Can you imagine?
I will say some of the best comments during the whole before the Grinch getting fired today was, could you imagine USC versus Iowa in a bowl to see who puts up more points?
Yeah,
Iowa might go off on that Grinch defense at that point. I thought it was a very
yeah, that's
a funny thought. You know,
that's a stoppable object going against a
resistible force,
whatever it is, a movable force versus a stoppable object, or however you want to say.
That's probably what the AD was worried about, because he might have made that average by scoring like I don't know. my multiple sevens don't go that high. Let's say like 237 points. Right?
So it just equals out to perfect 25 points a game.
Yeah, single-handedly in a bowl game, bringing him up to his average.
Well, that's not going to happen. I always got to play Kentucky again for the 47th time in a row.
And really quickly, we missed Ben's not here, so I can go ahead and do it. So for the Pac-12, the contenders are going to be Washington, obviously, and then when USC wins out, that would they'd break the tie with Oregon, and USC would be in the championship game, right, Ben?
That well, if USC won out, then we would be having a different conversation. If USC won out, we would be having a different conversation. Yeah, the Pac-12 is there are some kind of funky scenarios that could happen, just like say USC beat Oregon this week. I don't. The USC would probably then. Well, no, I think that would make it.
Washington would have to beat Utah, which is most likely going to happen. And then I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it is probable. It's possible, not probable. Is that if USC won, they'd have 2 losses. Oregon would have a loss, but we'd have the head-to-head, so we would go to the championship game.
Yeah,
that would be perfect, because then and then USC goes to the championship game. Michael Penix gets hurt in the first quarter, like Caleb did, and then no Pac-12 teams go to the playoffs. That would be the way to go out for the Pac-12 conference, because that's who we are as a conference.
That's probably how it's going to happen, no matter what, one way or another.
I like it.
I need it.
From what it looks like, UCLA is out of contention. Do my sunglasses record? No, they don't. I'm afraid. They're just trying to protect my eyes at the moment.
It was a good moment just to stop before we went to you for the SEC. Erica and Uncle Rico, thank you for the super chats too. Thank you very much.
I was going to say about the Pac-12 that it looks to me UCLA is out of contention with that loss to Arizona for that second spot. But that USC-Oregon game is going to be a great game to watch next Saturday on Pac-12 After Dark on Fox. Arizona, Oregon State, and Utah are still in contention. Now, Utah is going up against Washington, and Utah's got a really good defense. I mean,
Utah throws a wrench into things to a degree, because they took out USC. So if USC beat Oregon, and then Oregon beat Utah, if Washington beats Utah or loses to Utah, they can throw a wrench into some things.
Yeah, that'd be a chaos scenario, wouldn't it?
It would be a perfect Pac-12 scenario right there.
Didn't Utah just score like 55 yesterday or something?
Yes, on Arizona State after their starting quarterback went out. Oh yeah, they put 55-3.
Everybody's going to score 55 on Arizona State.
Are they starting?
Washington scored 15
at home. Yeah,
in Seattle.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Now apparently Washington was sick that those 2 weeks. They apparently all had like massive like colds, like and flus, because like Penix was like throwing up on sidelines, like between plays and stuff like that. It was so bad, apparently. And apparently they got healthy. That or they just ran the Grinch defense. One or the other. I'm not sure which.
It has, you know what? The Grinch defense has a miraculous healing power to make any illness on another offense, any injury, any illness, anything just ailing the whole program get better overnight when they play that defense.
Yeah. I hope we get USC in a bowl game. I think that would be something. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Get the Rileys going there.
That would be fun.
And it might be a get right game for our offense. Because good lord.
Oh, that'll be an awkward Christmas dinner right there. Where it'll just be like, "Hey, Dad, who's your favorite, Garrett or Lincoln?" And then the mom just goes, "We love you both so much."
Yeah.
And then the dad's like eating the steak, going,
It's great how often in
Lincoln.
sports that does happen. I mean, you have the Harbaughs. I mean, just once in a while it pops up, and you have brothers playing brothers, and families playing son playing dad. It's happened out so much. It just makes it fun. It would be interesting to see that situation again. You guys you could really work on that offense of yours. Garrett might actually tear it up for a game.
Maybe Cade Klubnik looks like the 5-star that we were promised. I don't know. Who knows?
Right. Very well could happen. We make very pedestrian quarterbacks look like all Americans. So,
and thank you too quickly here, LBC Trojan. Thank you very much. And yeah, thankful USC didn't wait until the end of the season to make a DC change, as some predicted would happen. Great show, Ben. Oh, I'm so flattered. It's not just me; it's you guys in the chat and all these people up here on panel that help make this the show it is. Otherwise, it would just be me sitting here rambling about nothing for like an hour every Sunday night. It's the chat that makes this really go. It's your questions, your comments, and everything, and the dialogue.
Well, you're pretty good at rambling, so I mean, I don't want to.
I am pretty good.
I'll listen to you ramble if you want.
With occasional smoke break.
Occasional. It's very light, very minimal. Thank you very much, LBC Trojan. Thank you very, very much for that. It helps the channel out a lot. The Jackson, what do you think? Because you are the resident SEC man here right now, and obviously we do pay attention to it, but you're the one with the insider knowledge.
Well, if Alabama beats Kentucky, which they will, let's be honest. I mean, Bama's going to beat Kentucky next Saturday. And that basically clinches the West Division, which means Ole Miss is out of division contention and conference title competition. However, they could still somewhat have a shot at the playoffs if they upset Georgia in Athens next Saturday. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I guess we'll wait and see. We've seen crazier things happen.
Lane
Georgia
winning a big SEC game. Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know if we've seen too many things crazier than that.
Well, and next Saturday, if Georgia's going to beat Ole Miss, they'll basically clinch the East Division with a victory over Ole Miss, which means Missouri and Tennessee are officially out of title contention. Well, Missouri's already out, but Tennessee still has a say. So Tennessee's going to probably have to beat Missouri, of course, and they're going to need Georgia to lose to Ole Miss, and then they need to beat Georgia to win the East Division, and then officially beat Vandy to clinch the East. Don't think that's going to happen, but again, this is college football. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, Vegas just called. If you want to bet a parlay on that one, $10 will get you about $3 trillion.
Yeah, I'm not betting $10 against Georgia right now. I mean, I'm saving that for the SEC title game.
Yeah, and that'll be a matchup.
Yeah. I mean, I think Bama's going to be the one team that beats Georgia in my book. I mean, they'll have all those little close victories like they have earlier this year. It's going to happen again next Saturday against Ole Miss. Everybody's going to act like it's amazing. Then they're going to be having another close victory against Tennessee and Knoxville, probably go to overtime. And they'll beat Georgia Tech, but luck runs out in the SEC title.
That's fair. I mean, speaking of that close win, the score doesn't show how close the game was, but Georgia did have to play a pretty feisty Mizzou team this week, and I think it was a little closer, I think, than some Georgia fans wanted it to be. I wasn't totally surprised by it.
No. Well, in some ways, maybe, but I mean, we saw this Missouri team, give Georgia all they could handle last year, and I do think this is an improved Missouri team. Brady Cook has been a really good quarterback. The receivers for Missouri are some of the best in the country. They're a really good football team, and Georgia won the game. I mean, it wasn't like they. It wasn't like they weren't on the ropes like they were last year. I thought it was just it was a competitive game, but Georgia just proved to be the better team through 4 quarters. So, I mean, I don't know. There's not much to take away from it. I mean, we already know. I mean, this isn't 2021 and 2022 Georgia we're talking about, but Carson Beck continues to play well. I mean, that's still Georgia's still a really good one of the top 5, top 4 football team. So. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much takeaways from it, really.
I guess I was a little bit different. I thought Missouri was probably the most fraudulent one-loss team in the nation, Louisville being an honorable mention. But I honestly thought that Georgia was going to beat them by even more. In Athens, I know that Missouri did give them a little bit of a scare last year, but that was in Columbia. I thought Georgia at home, even with their injuries, including Brock Bowers, all their running backs, countless injuries, I didn't think they would have any problem with Missouri. So when Missouri was still hanging around the 4th quarter, it was a little bit surprising.
Well, I mean, this is the best Missouri team we've seen since 2014. That's pretty big right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be since Gary Pinkel and that's. I mean, Missouri's good. I mean, they're just well coached. I mean, defensively, they're not like amazing, but they have some talent there. They had a really good defense last year, but they lost some pieces. So I mean, I don't know. I think they're I don't think they're overrated, really. I mean, who have they? I mean, they beat a pretty good Kansas State team at home. They were a couple turnovers away from beating LSU. I mean, they've taken care of business. I mean, I don't think they're like some top 10 team or anything like that, but I don't think they're fraudulent. I wouldn't say.
I think they're kind of like some of those teams like you're not supposed to lose to, but every year they give you everything they got and they are a pain in your side. Kind of like they know how to.
Oh yeah.
I think of them as almost like our Stanford. We're not supposed to lose to them, but every year they give us everything they got.
But it's a little bit, and I think it's a little bit because Missouri actually has 5 stars. I mean, Stanford used to get some decent recruits, but Missouri has actually has some pretty nice blue chip talent, especially at the skill positions, and they've used the transfer portal well. I mean, they're pretty good.
Well, Tim is off right now, so let's jump really quick. Speaking of K-State, we're going to jump down our list a little bit. That Texas K-State game, I know a lot of people, well, I guess they're probably mostly Texas fans, say Texas was dominating that game, which the first half they were, maybe mid-3rd quarter, and then they basically said they gifted points, but K-State still had to do that and then drive at the end of the game to kick a long field goal with a questionable kicker that they don't trust that much, kick a 45-yarder to tie the game for overtime. And then, of course, Kleiman made the bold decision, 4th and 4, or 4th and goal in overtime to go for it to win the game. Didn't get it and lost by 3.
They probably should have gone for the field goal to take it to double overtime.
Yeah.
That's what I said initially. I would have. This is why I'm not a college football coach. I get why he did it, but man, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
But it was a great game.
It was. I hate it for K-State though. They had a really great opportunity to win that game. Texas is kind of they need Quinn Ewers back. I mean, we've said that for a couple weeks now, but they do need Quinn Ewers back.
So
Yeah,
you're not in the Malik Murphy bandwagon.
I mean, I think he's really talented, but I think there's a clear drop off. At this point, I just don't. He's not as polished as Quinn Ewers is, and the offense doesn't seem to be as like efficient when he's not in the game. But I mean Murphy is really talented, so it's just a matter of he hasn't been in the system as long, and you can kind of tell.
I agree with that.
Well, I do hope Quinn Ewers is doing okay, because I hope he gets to feeling better soon. But we don't know what the status update is yet on whether he's going to return for net sec. Oh, thank you, LBC Trojan. But I've actually been wearing the shades for the last few days, which I won't go into full detail on there, but I had an allergic reaction. That's pretty much it. But anyway, that's not important. This is more important.
And another thing is, there's an outside chance that might be a rematch for the conference.
Yeah,
there is a possibility for that. Thank you, Oklahoma State.
Man.
Leading into that,
leading right into Bedlam. Nice transition, Mike. Thank you for that.
it's pretty good.
That Bedlam game, that was a good one. Another classic, down to the literal finish of the fourth down pass that got completed, but short by like a yard, just to seal it.
BV, what are we doing, baby? What are we doing?
Yeah, this one kind of fell on Venables, didn't it?
Yeah. Last few weeks at Oklahoma, I mean, just really since the win over Texas, they just have not quite looked, the same. It looks like a program that is still trying to figure out how to deal with being successful. I think you see some programs when they're trying to build back up, they go through this kind of phase where it's like, okay, well, we got a big win, but we don't really know. We can't really carry that into, the next week or the next week. And it's like, I don't know what I'm going to get any given week. That's what this Oklahoma team looks like. They just don't look like they know how to handle success right now. And that's a tough loss. I mean, considering, they haven't lost to Oklahoma State that much this century, maybe 4 times. And they historically own that rivalry, and this is probably the last. I mean, this is the last Bedlam, at least for a while. I mean, it's pretty rough. That's a pretty rough loss.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't heard the name Ollie Gordon, well, you heard of him now. I mean, this dude is the leading rusher in all of the Power 5. And last I checked, he was second, but no, he's got the lead again with 1,224 rushing yards for the season. And as of yesterday, from yesterday's game, he had 33 carries, 137 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he and Alec Bowman were fantastic against the Sooners yesterday afternoon.
Yeah,
and that's why I was happy for him was Alan Bowman, because I mean, this guy's a good guy. I mean, he came to us after having a modicum of success at Texas Tech, but when he was here, he couldn't get on the field for University of Michigan if he was mowing it. So he managed to get out of there and goes to Oklahoma State and looks like he's doing a decent job.
I'll be honest though. I think game day and mid-noon kickoff missed an opportunity. They should have gone to Stillwater, Oklahoma. I said it last week, and I'll say it again. College game day should have gone there instead of this year's Alabama LSU. I mean, there's always going to be another Alabama LSU, but we don't know when there's going to be the next Bedlam.
Right.
And they were both in a 5-way tie for first place. And I know Kansas State, Texas was great, but mid-noon kickoff should have shown some respect to the last Bedlam. It felt like to me a lot of the networks were giving it major disrespect vibes for putting it at 2:30 on ABC.
They
Compared to
probably they probably assumed Oklahoma was going to run away with it and do what historically they've done. Like I don't think they gave Oklahoma State much respect, unfortunately.
They should have. I mean,
Well, they do now.
They obviously didn't watch Oklahoma State like we all have.
Yeah, no.
I
Oklahoma
mean,
State is one of the
I
best
get
stories in college football right now.
Like, don't get
Sorry.
me wrong. I get it. You lost 33-7 to South Alabama. Okay.
Pretty
If it's
bad.
that loss to Iowa State that bugs you, okay. But have you not looked at what they've done since then, ESPN? Have you not looked at what they've done since then, Fox? What did they do? They beat 2 contenders in the Big 12 in Kansas State, and they beat Oklahoma. And they now have that second place spot in the Big 12. If that doesn't make you respect Oklahoma State, I don't think anything will.
I mean,
Mark really loves this.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Don't get Mark into here, Jason.
If Mark was in here, he'd be complaining about this for sure.
yeah, I will say, like Jason, like that's a good point. I mean, it feels like we pay attention to like the game day locations like the first few weeks of the season, but like as you get deeper in, it's less and less. I don't know. I'm less and less drawn to where game day is going. I mean, unless they're coming to my school, but that's about it. Like that's
they simp too
really,
much
plus
for the Bama LSU games.
Yeah, and the product on game day just hasn't been as good as it used to be. Like just the production and all of that. You know, I can't really get up for it like I used to. So I
don't blame you. They've made a lot of bad decisions over the last few years. So
yeah,
there you go.
Oh, Oklahoma played this weekend? I didn't know that. It's interesting.
I was waiting. You were oddly quiet up in that right corner of yours. I was like,
I swear to God, I don't give a crap what those guys do.
I was gonna say they'll remind you every day on your USC channel.
Yeah,
good job, the Cowboys. I like that.
Just look at the chat.
2 out of the last 3 games they played. That must be rough to handle as a Sooner fan. I didn't know they played this weekend. That's rough.
That's not.
Well, that's a good.
I saw a stat. It's not a great. But before we move on, it's not a great stat. But that I think Brent Venables in these last 2 seasons, he's lost 2 in a row, or what was it? He's or something like that. 2 in a row, like 3 or 4 times in 2 seasons. Like it's not great.
Well, I think they'll rebound nicely against West Virginia. I mean, if it was in Morgantown,
West Virginia's playing good. West Virginia's playing some good football right now.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pencil that one in.
Yeah, it's like their defense is pretty deep, pretty darn good this year.
Yeah.
So that might be a little struggle after that type of loss. Also, you never know how Oklahoma will rebound from this. They didn't rebound from Kansas, apparently.
No, they didn't.
This would be interesting. Well, talk about that. That was going to be the network dream if that actually does line up. And the way these networks run college football now, if there's some kind of bull tie-in, hocus pocus they could do, they'll make that happen.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Especially LSU Notre Dame. I mean, we can definitely see that happen.
Yeah, who wants to see USC Oklahoma? No, I don't want to see. It's boring.
I want to see USC Oklahoma.
I mean, I think a lot of people want to see that.
I guess I got to turn up my sarcasm meter. I guess. Sorry, guys.
I got you. I picked up. I got you.
I want to see USC Oklahoma only if it's sponsored by Lincoln.
This is a good transition. Thinking of Notre Dame, this is a good transition. This one Tim doesn't maybe care about because Jordan, you're here. Clemson, Jordan, what do you? How did you feel about that game yesterday?
I mean, I feel pretty good. I mean, it's nice to get a win. I mean, you lost your last 2. You know, you're reeling 4-4. I mean, this is unfamiliar territory for this program for since 2010. So I mean, this was kind of a get off the mat and it was I call this a culture win. Like, this is one of those things where, you know, you have, God, Clemson was out like 10 starters yesterday. You know, Cade Klubnik is playing with a brace on his foot. Like I said, you have all these starters out. You're 4-4. Notre Dame is coming in, you know, top 15 in the country. I mean, it was ugly. It was really good first half, ugly the second half, but you just found a way to win. And, you know, you made some mistakes, but you were also able to get the bounces that you weren't able to get in, you know, your previous games. And, you know, Notre Dame made some mistakes and you took advantage. And that was a big win. You know, Dabo officially becomes the all-time winningest head coach in Clemson football history. I mean, it was about time. So, you know, I'm happy. I'm not taking any big takeaways from this game. I still think there needs to be some changes within the program about how Clemson decides to do things. But this was a great win. And I hope they carry that into the next few games. But, you know, I'm just going to take this one in and celebrate it because, you know, I haven't had much reason to be excited this year, and it's been a minute. So not really much to add. I mean, and I guess on the Notre Dame side of things, you know, Sam Hartman, I'm really struggling to figure out what the issue is because, you know, coming in, I was really high on Notre Dame as far as that offense was going to be. Yes, Stephen, Tyler from Spartanburg should call in weekly. I dedicate that win to Tyler. He did a great job. He did I put a tweet out after the game. I said, Tyler, I don't agree with your methods, but you did us a great service this week. So, yeah, but, you know, from the Notre Dame side of things, I don't know if it's the offensive coordinator. I don't know if it's the receivers. I don't know if it's Sam Hartman. I really don't know because it's hard because there were times where I watched Sam Hartman and he just looked unsure of what he was supposed to be doing. And for a 6-year guy, like that's kind of shocking. And especially since I watched him put 6 touchdowns on my team last year at a different school. And he just looks like a different quarterback than he did at Wake Forest. And I don't know if that's on the offensive coordinator, the personnel, the wide receivers. I don't know. But, you know, Notre Dame, they still have some. It was a pretty, like, if you watch that second half, like, if you're if you love offense, if you are just you like to see like just really, you know, fundamentally sound offense and good quarterback play, do not watch the second half of that Clemson Notre Dame game because really on both sides it was pretty horrendous. But Clemson was able to, you know, defensively and special teams wise, they kept Notre Dame in their, you know, backed up in their own territory. They weren't able to get drives going, and I think they forced punts on 5 of the last 6 drives, and the other drive was a turnover on downs. So, I mean, Clemson's defense, I mean, if there was any sort of question, I mean, their defense is still really damn good, and offense did just enough. Phil Maffa was incredible. I think they simplified some of the run game stuff, the blocking scheme, and Phil Maffa with Will Shipley out, he was tremendous and something that Clemson fans have been begging for a while. So just, you know, again, happy to get the win. And it's a statement win, I guess, in a way, just for the season, not really for the program, but for the season. You kind of, that was one you had to have.
True. And with the 31-23 victory that Clemson got, Dabo Swinney has broken Frank Howard's record. So that's pretty big right there. And I will say, had it not been for Notre Dame's defense, I think this would have been a 17-20 point win for Clemson.
I mean, possibly. You know, there were, because again, you know, Clemson was, they tried to give that game away in the end. And, you know, they were up 24-9 at halftime, and they come out and Bo Collins drops a ball that hits him right in the hands, pops it up to right into Xavier Watt's hands for an interception. They return it down to the 2, and Notre Dame scores an easy touchdown off of that. But really, outside of that, you know, Notre Dame really only put together one drive in the second half. But Notre Dame's defense is really good as well. So, and you know, against a struggling offense, Clemson, they made Notre Dame made adjustments, and Clemson wasn't really able to do much of anything in that second half. But defense and special teams were amazing and kept Notre Dame at arm's length, and you were able to survive. So I'll take it how we can get it at this point.
Well, I will say also that I couldn't help but notice that Sean McDonough got pretty excited at the game. I thought the puberty voice was going to come out again, where he'd go, "Cut!"
Yeah, Sean was he was uncharacteristically like it was like listening to the broadcast. It kind of felt like I don't want to say he was rooting for Clemson, but it was like just kind of, he seemed to be like happy that, I guess because it was just more interesting. It was more interesting storyline if Clemson, I guess, won the game. But it was he usually does a pretty good job. I mean, I usually don't have too much of an issue with him. But he made a joke that he's like, yeah, I've hit puberty since that he has trouble with the snap call. So that was pretty funny.
Well, my favorite one was that Notre Dame Michigan game from 2009, the 2009 Cincy Pitt game, and 2009 Nebraska Virginia Tech when Tyrod Taylor threw the game winner.
Yeah, he's had some pretty legendary calls. So yeah, he and Greg McElroy did a pretty good job on the broadcast yesterday. So
they're a fantastic duo, man. I mean, I was so happy when I heard they were going to team up this season.
Well, how about the Michigan just doing what Michigan does apparently this season and just roll over people, especially like Purdue? How was that, Mike? Meh.
I don't know. That game was not as impressive as recent games. Purdue is probably the third worst team we've played, next to East Carolina and Michigan State. And it was at home in Ann Arbor. Michigan had some miscues in the first half. It was still a 28-point win, but there was some obvious faux pas. Purdue actually moved the ball pretty good. That Devin Mockabee guy, he did pretty well against our defense. It was a little concerning. Plus, we ended up giving up the most points we've allowed this season, which is 13. Previously, record was 10 by Minnesota, by them scoring with less than 20 seconds left in the game. So there's a lot for Michigan fans to digest about this game, but it was coming off of a bye, and there's a potential that Michigan was kind of looking forward to Penn State because our season officially starts on Saturday.
That's fair. I mean, I guess Purdue is not the worst of things when you have Penn State coming next.
Yeah.
But Jackson, you did have a pretty, I know it's not a rivalry game, but I was just from the outsider perspective, we always consider it that. But Bama LSU, especially after last year's loss. So you guys wanted some revenge this year on the Tigers.
Yeah, we got our revenge, and I will say a lot of people doubted Jalen Milroe earlier in the year. I mean, I got a little nervous, to tell you the truth, but after a while, he's been pretty awesome these past several weeks, especially this week. I mean, he had 15 of 23 completed passes, 219 passing yards, 20 carries, 155 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. Holy cow. And he had and that all amounts to 374 total yards. It's big right there.
I didn't get to watch the whole game. I was watching a lot of the highlights, especially at the second half when Bama really started taking control. It seemed like the first part was kind of back and forth a little bit, but
But I will say I flipped between that game and the USC Washington game. So I kept my eyes on both of them.
But you turned away from the Washington USC one. You missed a touchdown.
I was watching both.
If you blinked, you missed a touchdown.
Well, that's why I thank God every day for YouTube TV multi-view, because that was something looking at, but like just looking back and forth, because I think the USC Washington game was in the top left, and the Alabama LSU game in the top right, and I just kept looking back and forth, and every time I looked, it was a touchdown scored by one team. It's pretty incredible.
Well, and I think a lot of people are forgetting that LSU secondary is just absolute crap. Their front.
I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, I'm sure you haven't. Their front seven is acceptable, but their secondary is just awful. Plus,
and even I think their front seven is good, is talented, but I think like Harold Perkins, I think they're grossly mismanaging him right now.
Perkins is what, top 10 pick?
He's that kind of talent, but I think they're losing him money right now. I don't doubt it. Just watching him, like it just seems like they're not letting him. They're not tailoring the defense to his strengths, and he's such a disruptive force, but he's not really getting the opportunity to be that. And Matt House, he's got to go. I mean, I'm not even an LSU fan. Like, he's got to go. He's doing one of the worst jobs, I think, as far as considering his personnel. Yeah, the secondary sucks. I agree, but I think part of that is, they're just not being coached up very well. Like, you watch them and they don't look like they know what they're doing assignment wise. And I feel like LSU they've changed stuff and they've tried to make tweaks, but I think it's made the problem worse, because now guys really don't know what they're doing. But yeah, the LSU defense is a mess, and they should be a lot better, considering the talent they have.
And another thing I'll say, I mean, I've ragged on Milroe as much as anybody else, and his short to intermediate passes are straight horrid. But he probably has one of the sweetest deep passes of any quarterback in the league, and I'm putting him up there with like the Penixes and the Williams. For some reason, inside of 15 yards, he could fall out of a boat and not hit the water. But if he throws a 40-yard pass downfield, it will hit the guy right in the hands. And
he can throw it. He's pretty good with intermediate passes, right to the hands of the defense. So, I mean,
yeah, that's true. But and you know what? To give Alabama credit, and I think they've done Tommy Rees and that offensive staff have done a good job of, it took some time and some bumps along the way, but I think they finally figured out what works. And they're giving Milroe the chance to be an athlete and be the athlete that he is, and take advantage of that cannon he has for an arm. I mean, he really can throw it deep. I mean, the play action stuff they're doing is working really well. And just obviously the quarterback run game is huge. It's a part of the offense, and that's how you use him. It's not like Bama offenses of the past, but it's what works for this team and the personnel they have.
But there's also an Achilles heel with the offensive line this year.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the things that it makes it so great that you have an athlete like Milroe back there, instead of, Tyler Buckner. Tyler Buckner is mobile, but he's not Jalen Milroe.
He's not mobile.
Yeah, and or Ty Simpson. Like, those guys can't make the kind of plays that Milroe can and make up for that, some of the deficiencies on the offensive line. And I mean, that's a talent. They have talent on the line, but they're green in some places. And they starting a true freshman at left tackle. That's, you're going to have some growing pains. So, but they figured it out, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, I think Bama's got a legitimate shot. They just have to limit the sacks. Milroe's getting sacked too much.
And I think some of that's on him too. I feel like he does. He'll hold on to the ball too long at times as well.
Very much too long.
Well, good shout out here, LBC Trojan. Thank you once again for another super chat. It's always appreciated. But he agrees with Mike Fort on Michigan season starting this week versus Penn State, and Georgia season versus Ole Miss also. Well, theirs starts on the 11th, but that's Saturday too. So both Georgia and Michigan season finally start this weekend.
I think Georgia's season starts in December. I think Georgia in the East is kind of a flower growing out of a pot of dirt. I am not sold on Tennessee. I'm not sold on Missouri, and everybody else is just terrible.
Oh,
I hope the real didn't hear that, but sorry, Kentucky is not good this year.
He's going to come here screaming now.
I'll still be rooting for Kentucky to whoop South Carolina in a couple weeks. So, if that's any consolation, Darrell.
I also do want to give some love out to. Wait, we got Erica here coming in for a second here. Want to knock this out while we can. Oops, crap. Two of us clicking things. Forgot to mention, Hell froze over. Coopin DeJohn got some plays on the offensive side of the ball. Got 8 yards and was used briefly as a decoy.
Well, Cooper DeJean is pretty much their best player, so it's kind of like
8 yards.
Kind of like in the Waterboy movie. You put your best player in the offense when the game is on the line, which it was. I mean, against Northwestern, a 10-7 game. It is what it is.
Well, does it get mad when somebody says Gator water sucks, Gatorade's better?
Gatorade.
Gatorade.
God.
But he is their shining star. I think Iowa fans are starting to realize that Deacon Hill just not the guy.
It wasn't at that point. It was still 0-0.
That could have been true in the third quarter too.
Yeah, that is true. Hey, we had one of those. We had one of those types of games in the pack this week too. It was not even on our list, but shout out to Stanford, who won at Washington State 10-7.
What is going on with Washington State?
10-7.
I mean, UCLA just exposed them. Really, I mean, good grief.
It's kind of been. I mean, Washington State has been their offense has been kind of figured out the last few weeks. It just seems like
they've had some injuries too, but they've just fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, Jordan, that's what I said on Wednesday, the Pac-12 show. I said, just seems like because not much. There have been some injuries to wide receiver, but those guys, how injured, how 100 they are. The one thing I thought about right away is you got a new scheme, you got a new coordinator. The more film they get on it, and just like a hitter, you see a hitter, he's hot as hell early on. Then by the All-Star break, they figure out how to pitch him, and then all of a sudden his numbers start dropping. So same thing.
Well, is it okay to say that a lot of people kind of put too much hype on Cam Ward?
No, I think he's legit. Cam Ward.
Yeah, no, I think Cam Ward is like a legit NFL prospect, like talent wise. I think I just don't. I think the rest of that offense is not in the best of shape right now, and I think the pack has kind of adjusted. There's just more film out, and there's only so much you can do. Like Washington State is still working at a talent disadvantage against a lot of the teams they're playing.
Is Jake Dickard distracted by the Michigan State opening? Is that one of the reasons, or no?
That would be something.
So,
I wouldn't really. I have no reason to think that. But I don't know. Possibly.
Is he coming in on Urban Meyer's staff? I kid.
Yeah. If Michigan State, that would be a really underwhelming hire. If I was a Michigan State fan, if I'm being honest, but it's not.
It would kind of be.
It would kind of seem like a stopgap, like hire, just a PR hire. Just to get somebody that's not gonna.
I think Dickard's happy at Washington State. And he's done an okay job this year. It's just kind of just falling apart after a strong start. It just collapsed for some reason.
They showed some promise this year. They're kind of bottoming out right now.
Tim, we went over Washington, USC. Unless you want to give some highlights for your team, because obviously you guys still put up 42 points.
No, yeah, I mean USC's offense It's one of the best offensive performances I've ever seen. You know, Caleb Williams literally outplayed Penix. He did in every facet of that game. You know, highlights, numbers, everything. He was everything you want. Austin Jones running strong. Darwin Barlow, not used very often. The run game for USC came out looking strong. The USC offensive line has been, everyone talks about the defense. One of the major issues with USC has been more the offensive line, just as much the offensive line as anything else. And they look like they fixed the run blocking. Pass blocking is still kind of an issue, but as far as offense goes, I mean, it is just a crime that your offense plays like that and you lose the game. There's just, again, I think that's why today USC and Lincoln Riley are now looking for new defensive coordinators, because if the atrocity in the second, the end of the game, the last drive against Utah wasn't enough. That Utah offense is not meant to go down the field and get enough yards to kick a field goal in a minute and change. It's just not built to do that. That defense let it up. Washington is an amazing team, I can't take anything away from them. I don't. But the way USC played on offense and losing that game, it's just a crime. And it's also going to be a crime that, I think at the end of the day, Caleb Williams is a couple of these going against him. 1, repeating. 2, West Coast bias. But 3, he has zero support behind him from the defense, and it's why he'll be out of the Heisman. Matt doesn't think he'll make it to New York, but it's a shame because I still think he is still the best player in college football.
I will say he did have to outplay Penix because Washington had a guy that rushed for 260 yards. So,
no, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying just his play on the field. I don't mean numbers. Just you watch those two guys play side by side. You say, which one's your Heisman Trophy winner? Because Penix had some throws. Penix had to make some throws, and he made some beautiful throws. But if you watch Caleb play that game in every facet, I mean, it was clear who's the better quarterback to me.
Caleb had the better game. I will agree.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just statistically. I get you as being Ben.
I tell you what, though, a lot of NFL teams are going to be really happy to try to get Caleb Williams next year in the NFL draft.
I think he can be a game changer on the next level as well. Yeah.
I think his stock might have dropped over the last month or so.
I hope not, but it's just.
I think Mike Force
how much did it drop?
Thinking over there, it hasn't dropped. He put enough film. Even if he didn't play it all this whole year, he put enough film out last year to show you who he is. He's going to crush the combine, and he has all the intangibles. I mean, I'm just.
You think
and he's playing. Yes, and he's playing most likely the broken pinky on his throwing hand.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's if he even throws at the combine. A lot of quarterbacks decide not to. So
yeah, I mean,
but that's at the combine. So,
and if you say his stock, I mean, like how, like down where, like nobody, what quarterback is getting taken over him? I mean, Drake May is talented, but Drake May is not the prospect that Caleb Williams is.
I was leaning May.
I've seen him on there.
But I also don't think that. I don't think there's going to be a quarterback taking the top 3. But
yeah, that depends on how the teams end up.
Yeah. Yeah. The only team I could think that maybe take a quarterback would be Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but whoever they get at quarterback, they need to make sure that their new QB has plenty of weapons on offense.
Well,
I don't see that
Chicago then.
Oh.
Justin Fields is kind of an island out there.
Ethan Garbers for Heisman. And
of course,
hopefully the Bears can use the fact that they got a lot of draft picks for 2024 to their advantage. Because remember, they got the Panthers' first-round draft pick for 2024. So they got 2 first-round draft picks. So
great job, Panthers. By the way, what a poorly run organization. But this isn't an NFL show. Exactly.
I see. I was like, all right, we're going a little deep here with the NFL draft.
I see people talking about like Caleb's, the reaction, him crying and all that. Like that's you're probably right. It's going to get nitpicked in the eval, but it kind of reminds me of like when when Trevor Lawrence was coming out and people were like, does he really care about football? Because he said like he'd be fine, or he said something like I'd be fine if I didn't play football or something like I'd be able to find purpose outside of football or something like if he couldn't play it again. And so and then like the draft scouts were like, oh man, he doesn't love the game and all that. And they still took him number one. Like you don't pass up on that kind of arm talent. Caleb Williams is going number one. I don't have much doubt about that.
Well, what about I have to have part ownership of the franchise comment?
That was bullshit. It's been debunked. But I will say he does paint his nails, so there you go. He can't be number one.
Yeah.
I mean, how nitpicky are we to get on this thing? The guy is truly one of the best quarterbacks to come out in ages. People will trade up for him. They're not going to pass on a guy like you don't pass up on a guy like Caleb Williams.
All right. Well, we have to talk about the game of the week. We haven't even talked about it yet. And that was in a rainy Autzen Stadium. The Oregon Ducks defeated the Cal Bears 63-19. All right, that's all I have to say about that game.
Yeah, I got one.
It was a sloppy first quarter in the rain. That's all I could say about that game.
I was going to say, I'm like, are we sure we're not in NCAA football EA Sports? Because that's what it kind of felt like.
No, the only reason they scored that many points is that first quarter was so messy in the rain. There were so many mistakes by both teams. Lanyon was having none of it. They put Ty Thompson in and let him throw it 8 times for a touchdown. That's how pissed off he was at his team. Yeah.
Didn't Oregon?
Oh, that was you, Ben. I love that little Dutch.
Yeah.
That's Tim. He has it on command.
See, Oregon
one more time.
70 points.
There we go.
They scored 7 of Cal's points for him.
Shut up, LW.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Alabama had LSU signs, so let's talk about that.
Everyone this whole weekend, if you notice, half the team literally visors around like their OC and DCs, like blocking from the other sidelines, or like we're going back to that now. And I'm like, it's great to watch because you watch the guys trying to run around with the OC, like covering him.
Well, Michigan is a trendsetter because I think that one nerdy Michigan guy, the guy that did like the arm runs, I think he was the original surrender Cobra.
Well, let's just make sure that not all the trends going on at Michigan are spread to the rest of the country as well.
No, they are.
Oh,
no, not the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know
not that one. I hope.
Yeah,
I hope not.
We'd be in some trouble. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, we have. Is there? I do want to touch on this. I don't want to skip over this because, again, Jordan, you're the ACC guy, but Virginia Tech had been looking pretty good this last few games. Like they've been starting to play pretty decent, and Louisville thumped them. And Louisville is now 8-1.
Yeah,
shockingly 8-1.
I mean, it's not that shocking. I guess I was one of the only people saying, ooh, people were saying Louisville, but I was like, Louisville might actually be pretty solid. And I mean, I know some of it is the schedule. The schedule hasn't been like overly, difficult for them, but this is their first year. This is a first year coaching staff. Jeff Brom he's a very good game day coach. Has the team prepared, and they played lights out and against a Virginia Tech team that had been playing good football. And I actually don't feel that much different about Virginia Tech. I think they're starting to show some proof of concept under Brent Pry. It's just kind of been a slow build, and he didn't take over an overly talented roster. Their recruiting had fallen off under Justin Fuente. So I don't feel that much different about either team. Louisville just had a really good game plan. They played a really good game, and they whooped Virginia Tech's ass. But I think Louisville has a better roster right now, so it wasn't that shocking for me. But I still think Virginia Tech, this season has been a success, especially with how they started. The loss to Old Dominion, like stuff like that. Like you gotta, or Did they lose to Old? I don't think they lost to Old Dominion. Virginia lost to Old Dominion.
Yeah, Virginia
They
Tech lost to Rutgers, Purdue, and
Rutgers and
Marshall.
Purdue. Yeah, Marshall. Yeah, could not. I always think of Virginia Tech losing to Old Dominion because they've done it twice in the last 5 years. So I get them confused. Yeah, they did beat OD. They did beat them this year. Why both schools continue to schedule Old Dominion, I don't understand. I know they did that whole agreement, so I think they're locked in now. But why? And you're playing a road game. You're playing road games there. What? Why? I don't understand that. But regardless, good for Virginia. I still think Virginia Tech has done a good job of kind of turning that season around, and Louisville just continues to roll. I mean, I think that Pitt game was kind of a spot for them. They were coming off the high of beating Notre Dame, and it's just one of those moments. And Narduzzi just kind of got the better of them that day. But I think Louisville could very well win out and meet Florida State in the ACC championship. That'll be an interesting matchup.
There any other major games we want to talk about? Because actually, Cheryl did bring up, so again, Cheryl there, the undefeated Air Force Falcons absolutely got thumped by Army this last weekend.
I mean, we knew this was coming. Maybe not in this game. We knew
maybe not to Army. Yeah.
This was. I don't think anybody expected Air Force to carry this momentum all the way into a New Year's Six at bowl appearance. I mean, that would have been awesome. I was hoping for it, but I wasn't holding my breath. But yeah, this result was pretty shocking because they got dominated. Oh yeah. But I guess things do kind of go out the window when it's the service academies but still it just did not expect that kind of just Air Force to just lay down like that. That was pretty wild.
I was pulling for Air Force to go undefeated, but I am an Army vet, so I always have to root for Army. So even I was surprised. It was like, yeesh.
Well, they're all carbon copies of each other. They all run the same offense.
Air Force is the most prolific in the sense they actually pass the ball more.
They're throwing the ball, but they had nothing.
So the name isn't ironic.
Well,
anymore, I guess.
Air Force, had they won against Army, they would have won the Commanders and Chiefs trophy. But now Army's going to play for a shot at winning the Commanders and Chiefs trophy on December 9th against Navy on CBS. And one question I do have is, now that Air Force is likely out of the top 25, do you think we're going to see Liberty get in the top 25 and have a say in the New Year's Six group of 5 running with Tulane? I know Liberty's got an easy schedule, but let's not forget they're unbeaten.
I would honestly give the green light to Fresno State before I would Tulane.
Maybe, but I don't know. You know what really sucks is that James Madison can't.
Yes.
Well, there's not enough bowl eligible teams, so if we don't reach the threshold for 82, there's going to be a few 5 and 7 teams that get in, and we're possibly going to see Jacksonville State and James Madison get in. So they'll have to.
Do they do that? Well, I know they'll bring up a 5 and 7 team, and they do that based off of their academic progress rate or something like that. And
James Madison is stuck in that stupid NCAA.
Yeah. I was about to say, I don't think they make an exception for a team that's in transition.
It's
so I don't.
So stupid.
Yeah.
Even if they filed a waiver or something to fill a spot, I don't think it would get approved in time to. Be able to be planned, and it's stupid because James Madison is just rolling right along 9-0.
I heard an explanation for why that rule exists, and I kind of get it, but I still think it's stupid. I think because the point of the rule is that so teams aren't moving up and down when they're good and bad. But I think that's kind of silly, and I don't think any team would actually, any program would actually do that. because that's a lot of
JMU is good. That's the difference. I mean, that's the big difference.
Yeah.
Is they actually are pretty good. So they've shown that now for the second year in a row.
But they don't. I guess they don't want teams to move up, back and forth, based off of their team. But that's I don't think any program, because that's a lot to change divisions. There's a lot of logistics that go into that, like you would have to do every year. That's that just feels like overkill, and it's a stupid rule, and it doesn't make sense because it sucks for the players on those teams.
Oh, we got an Artogen. Welcome, Artogen Hunter.
Like the last 10 minutes of the show, literally.
Was that intentional?
No. I had to. I was at a game earlier, so I just got home.
Wow.
Well,
we were going to just go on to the thoughts of because now we got the Mark's top 25 that came out today again. So everyone go check out Mark's top 25 that makes sense. But the new CFP, the one that matters in the sense of the actual playoff. Sorry, Mark, they do not account for your rankings. Do you think there's going to be any change in the top 6 this week because everyone won?
No.
I don't. We're just going to leave it at 6 because, again, if we go into any higher, it would take us forever to debate that. And I think the top 6 just stays right along.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry. What's this playoff you guys keep talking about?
Something. It's something that the Pac-12 will get left out of probably.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. It sounds familiar, but I don't remember.
Well, I guess there's maybe two teams here that got a shot at it.
There's two of us that have a shot.
Goodbye to those two teams.
I see.
Oh, wait,
that's the origin of the surrender cobra.
That's not me. I don't have that on recall.
Who did that? That's uncalled for.
That's not me.
Yeah, how dare you?
That's a Prangley move right there.
That's when the sanctions come down.
That is the surrender cobra 1.0.
He is the epitome of the Michigan despair look though. Every fan base has the one person in the stands that has a video clip like that.
Yeah, ours is a guy completely. Well, one was the girl after the South Carolina loss last year with the cupped over her face, and then we also have one where a guy is just completely slumped over with his hat over his face. That's a good one. I don't remember what game that one was from.
I still think the best one is though. Tim, you know this one. This is the Pac-12 lore. The Washington State guy in the stands by himself with the popcorn bag and just poured it over his face as Washington State's getting blown out of the game, and he's the only one there, and he's just like.
I think one of the Hall of Fame ones is the Florida State guy reading a book.
Yeah, the guy in the stands just sitting there.
Yeah, the stands are empty. Yeah.
When I think of Florida State gifts and pictures, I think of the cowboy hat girls. That's what I think of. So I'm just gonna say that's the one I remember.
Yeah, me and Jason were on the same page. Yeah, that one's an all timer. Yeah, I think every fan base uses that one.
Search.
Yeah. Come think of it. Thanks for reminding us, Search. Nobody wanted to talk about how good Arizona's been lately in their latest conquest.
So we had the Pac-12 show, and I got absolutely lambasted. What do you guys? Why do you have them at 5? Why do you have them at 5? I'm like, or at 4? I can't remember.
4.
No, I mean,
yeah, USC at 5.
I thought it was 4. I think Tim had it 4.
Oregon's the cream of the crop. They are, sadly. It makes me it's horrible to say, but when Washington's up there, I mean, who really is playing as hot as Arizona right now?
Maybe,
and it seems like just every game that Fafita plays, he gets more confidence. He gets on page. He and McMillan are high school teammates. They obviously got a connection. That touchdown he threw, McMillan makes a great catch, just right over the shoulder of the defender. yeah, they're a tough out. Right now you have to play them, especially down in the desert. It's and the funny thing is USC beat them by 14 and dropped in the polls.
Now, wasn't that with Delora though?
Just saying.
Wasn't Delora?
No, that was not Delora. That was Fita. That was a Fita.
That was his second game, right? That was the second game starting.
Yeah, that was his second game.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he hadn't quite taken off yet, but Arizona's come on very strong. And
no, but he
not
doesn't
a
mean he
surprise.
didn't play well. He played very well.
Oh, he did. No, he
game.
did play very well.
And everyone, well, look at USC. They played a close game against Arizona. They only beat them by 14 points, right? And USC dropped in the poll. Granted, it's all worked out. We've dropped 3 games, so I can't bitch. But it just shows you the perception, though, of the Pac-12 and how you get hit in these stupid polls where USC wins the game by 14. They go, who's Arizona? And drop them 3 spots in the polls. It was pretty dumb.
I'm glad we don't play Arizona this year. I'm glad we got them last year when we did. So,
are you feeling a little better, Tim, after Alex got fired today?
I am feeling fantastic. It's kind of numb. After the game, it was just it's just a rough way to lose that game in the Coliseum. The Coliseum, by the way, was actually packed. Unfortunately, it was probably about maybe 15% Washington fans. Were only about half as loud as USC for the rest of the stadium. Man, those guys, no wonder Husky Stadium goes crazy. They had a fair amount of people at the game, but holy crap, when SC was on offense, literally there was an audible difference. It was pretty amazing. They must have extra special vocal cords up there in Seattle and also in Oregon. You guys must breed them people these gigantic vocal cords or something, because the number of fans, they probably had about 15,000 fans, 12,000 fans ish, and they were audibly loud on when USC was on offense.
well,
Yeah, I
that's a
saw
good-
that game. They were pretty vocal for a road game.
It was crazy. And hats off to them.
This is a good transition into our final thing as we look ahead next week. Jordan, after your fantastic week this week against Notre Dame, who do you have to now lose to next week? I'm kidding.
No, honestly, that's not as crazy as you think. But the final edition of the yearly John Heisman Coach Tier Bowl, whatever you want to call it, we play Georgia Tech at home. Georgia Tech's playing really good football, and Clemson has shown they can compete with anybody and lose to anybody. So Clemson opened up as an 18-point favorite. Saturday was great, but this team is not covering an 18-point spread against a competent football team. I don't see it. So I think Georgia Tech and the points is a pretty safe bet, and I think Georgia Tech you might get some good value on Georgia Tech money line, just because this Clemson team they can show some weird stuff at times. But it's at home; it's hard to beat Clemson in Death Valley. So I don't expect to lose, but wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, that was probably your guys' best all-around game yesterday, from what I saw.
More or less, or the Florida State loss. But yeah.
And Mike, we know you have your season starts this week.
Yep,
Finally.
we get to go to Happy Valley. Fortunately, Penn State wasted their whiteout against Iowa in a 31-0 humiliation, so there won't be a whiteout for this Happy Valley game. But our season starts this Saturday, where we're going to play Penn State, and it's big noon kickoff on Fox.
Finally, a Michigan game that's worthy of big noon. Sorry.
Yes, finally.
You kept saying it earlier, like, I'm so sick of big noon coming for Michigan, Hawaii or whatever. You were like, stop it.
Yeah, it was basically, Michigan noon.
Jackson, after LSU, what does Bama have coming up?
Well, we got that matchup against Kentucky next Saturday, 11 a.m. on ESPN. And if we win that game, we officially clinch the West Division, which we're definitely going to beat Kentucky this Saturday. things have not gone so well for Kentucky since they've beaten Florida. I mean, that Georgia loss just crushed them. I mean, yeah, they beat Mississippi State, but that's like their only win. I mean, I kind of feel like Kentucky is the Syracuse of the SEC.
Mississippi State's terrible this year too, so they're terrible.
True.
Rip Mike Leach, rip the pirate.
Funniest man in college football.
There you go. Love his press conferences. That's for sure. Favorite ones were one about eloping. That was hilarious.
I couldn't imagine if I sat down and had to make a top 10 Mike Leach moment list. I'd have to make
Yeah,
some cuts.
I think fat little girlfriends might be my.
That one's definitely one of the top ones. I think
the
for me,
mascot battle, battle, and the
Yeah.
fat little girlfriends are just all time.
Yeah.
All time.
like a Trojan, he has a sword that's deadly. A Sun Devil, what the hell is that?
Yeah, special
What-
powers or
What mythical powers does a Sun Devil have?
mythical powers.
God.
Oh,
So,
man.
are we going to talk about stallions?
We can't after this. I'm gonna let Tim you and Spaz go into
Oh,
the
shit.
Oregon USC game because I'm gonna remove myself and be a neutral party here. So I'll let you and Spaz go into the USC Oregon game because one of us is gonna be walking away from that game going, I won't say it on Mark's channel, but that's what we'll be doing.
Well,
Say it.
And it's a night game in Autzen, so
I'm just going to be a conscientious observer and just let Spaz go scorched earth right now. I'm just going to sit back because of my beliefs and allow this atrocity to happen. So go ahead. Our Togan Hunter.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting game. It depends on how many tears Caleb lost last night. Is he going to be able to?
Too soon, Spaz.
It's been all over the internet, dude. So it can't be that soon. Oh no. If he plays, who knows? Our secondary is, it's got holes here and there. Obviously not like not like Tim's secondary, but I mean,
We have a secondary? Wait, hold on. What?
yeah, right. I mean, who knows
Dude,
though?
no,
Now
actually, we do have a secondary. I think our secondary shows up on first and second down, third and fourth down. Sometimes they can't be found, but on first and second down, we will give you some trouble.
yeah, it was like Cal. We had 2 plays where we were second or third in like 30 something yards, and one we went for 40 yards, and the other one we went for a touchdown. So I mean, it happens. I think it'll be a good game. God forbid the weather is better than it was yesterday, because that was a shit show in the first 20 minutes of the game. Just terrible. But once the weather let up, it wasn't that big of an issue. I still think it'll be a good game. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, now that you guys have some new defensive position, obviously you guys just move some guys around. Tim, is that pretty
Defensive
much
lineman, the defensive lineman, and our inside linebacker coach. So respectively, that would be Nua and Odom are going to be the co-defensive coordinators.
Do you see that as a help, or is it still the same kind of system?
Everyone's been saying it can't get worse, and I'm trying to tell them it can, but not much, right? Not much worse. I'm going to be interested to see if you guys can stop our run game, because slowly and sneaky, USC's got one of the better run offenses in college football. And that was without Marshawn Lloyd. What's that?
Not as good as Washington, no.
Not as good as Washington. Well, but again, we didn't play this. The two offices didn't play the same defenses. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know what Marshawn Lloyd's status is, but they played well. Barlow and Austin Jones played very well in that game. So we'll see.
I did see, especially in the first
hope
half,
Lloyd
you guys
comes back.
definitely had some good runs and showed signs of life on the run game. And that if you guys can get a balance, that makes your offense even that much more dangerous than it already is.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. I think against your pass rush, we need to run the ball because you guys have a really nice pass rush. I mean, back-to-back weeks, you're going to have Caleb running for his life with you guys, your pass rush, and with UCLA with Latu. It's going to be it. We bet we are going to rely on our run game to open up. We got to keep your blitz. Because you guys are going to be, I think, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you guys drop. Will you guys drop 8 into a zone? Will you do a zone, or are you guys going to come out as man to man? Or
I don't know. I think it'll probably be a little bit of both.
Yeah, that's a good question. They've been bringing 4 most of the time, except for some of their corner blitzes and the linebacker blitz. But they've been generally having 4 guys. So.
Well, I mean, Notre Dame is able to get home with 4 and 5, bringing 5 sometimes. I see you guys with similar, if not better, pass rush. So you guys should probably do the same. Sorry, Jordan, I cut you off twice. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying I hope Lloyd comes back because it's nice to see him play for the real USC, and it makes South Carolina fans mad when he has a good game. So,
when he got hurt, he was leading the country in yards per carry. What they did tell us, what Todd Gwynn said is he's an awesome back, but he has trouble staying healthy. Well, he made it through 8 games healthy. They haven't disclosed he got nicked up in the God, dude, I'm sorry. I've been on way too many shows today. He got nicked up late in the game, and he didn't come back, and then he didn't play on Saturday. So I think Mikey asked a question. Is he going to play? We really don't know if he's going to be playing in the Cal game. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. Yeah, that's what happens after 6 hours. I'll be gone for 6 hours. That usually is what happens to your brain. It kind of just decides to leave. So
yeah, and we're going to talk about it.
Have 3 therapy shows a day. Yeah.
And we'll be talking. I'm more interested to see how you guys do on the defense, like trying to simplify it. That's just my personal, because I think that's going to be maybe the difference of the game. I think is how that defense works now.
Well, I hope we don't look like this. This is probably what we're going to look like. I have just change the colors and the hoodie. That's going to be any USC fans that made a mistake that go up to Autzen, I think, watching our defense.
You have to get some more bolts in that chamber, dude.
Yeah, I heard you and Tony going. I believe that's what you guys were arguing over yesterday. Difference of opinion was the firing or unfiring of Alex.
So the argument from me was not to keep Alex Grinch. Absolutely conceding anyone realizes that's going to help you with recruiting. My point was, and not that I'm conceding losing to the Ducks. I'm not. But we're playing UCLA. And at USC, we don't play for one game. But I will tell you, as a fan, I work with a ton of Bruins. I have a ton of Bruin friends. It's an LA battle. And going into that battle, the one thing, say what you want about Chip Kelly, but the man knows X's and O's. And he's going to have a field day in the second half going against 2 inexperienced defensive coordinators. When he makes those, you guys watch the score at halftime against UCLA, and then we'll talk about the game afterwards. And I'll tell you why I have some serious worries about us not being a rudderless defense going into that game, because Chip Kelly can coach, and he's going to scheme. And let's say they hang on there in the first. Chip Kelly is going to make some adjustments. Now, the good news is their offensive line is pretty damn bad, and their quarterbacks are dinged up. So that might be a shot. There's no question. With 2 games, all I said to Tony is that there's 2 games left. Firing him. The good thing about the schedule, everyone's been complaining about the USC schedule. How is the bye was too early, and we have to play 9 straight weeks. Blah 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 blah. But the bonus of it is our season would have been over a week early. So you would have that extra week, to announce the firing, start the hiring. Unless it's an analyst out there right now, anyway, they're not going to be able to name a coach because coaches will still be coaching, right? So, you could flip the coin. I'm happy with it. I'm glad we did it. I think that it's going to give us some traction on the search. I think it's going to give us some traction in recruiting. But at the end of the day, does it really make that much difference? The 2 weeks? Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
They're not hiring anybody tomorrow or the next day. So, I don't know.
Right. I kind of agreed with your philosophy too on why fire a guy now. You waited 8 to 9 weeks into the season and now you're going to fire him. It's like that was like the whole Colorado thing with the offensive coordinator. Why are you firing the guy in the middle of the week? That's just stupid.
But you know what, Spaz? It had to happen because if you watch the game, they're giving up the sheer number. You got everyone at homecoming to this giving up. I don't care if it's Penix and Washington giving up 572 yards and like 4,000 yards rushing. To a team that's not really known for its rushing, giving up 52 points in a loss where all you needed was maybe 1 or 2 stops, and the defense couldn't even muster that. Eric Gentry makes a hero play, tips the ball for an interception. Otherwise, I think they would have punted one time the entire game. You can't you can't expect your offense to be perfect. They were damn well close to it, but they weren't perfect, and they lost. And then, like I said,
how long can you expect your offense to carry you, emotionally when every time they score, they see the defense just go give it right back? How long before they finally just be like, why bother?
And the defense, and the decision was made after. I guarantee it, if not earlier, at the very latest decision to fire him, that he wasn't coming back next year, happened in the Utah game. I have no question in my mind. Just the way Alex Grinch was talking at his weekly media scrums, guy looked dejected. He knew it. Everyone knew it. He was gone. He's kind of like a dead man walking. I think they were going to finish the season out with him. I really do. But just the way they lost, struggling against Cal, giving all those yards against Cal, becoming pretty much a laughing stock. Defensively, again, you guys, this is USC. I know people think the West Coast will play defense, but USC over the years has had decent, strong defenses. And the fact that our defense is 125th out of 133 in scoring defense, that's something that's going to get you fired. And you know what? It could go. There's pluses and minuses to both. I'm glad it's done. It's like that one thing. It's over with now, and the team can move on. I think there's benefits to both sides. There would have been benefits to both sides. As long as
there we go.
After the season.
And there we go. Now that we've stretched this another 15 minutes.
Did we talk about Alex Grinch yet?
Yeah, no, please. We haven't
let's
discussed Alex Grinch at all.
spend like 10 more minutes on that.
What about Connor Stallions?
Okay. Will you quit playing that clip?
Okay, so I'm not doing
it's not me. I have no control over that. I
You know who
no
it is,
control
Mike.
over that at all.
Don't let him fool you, Mike. It's Ben.
Plot twist,
You
it's
know
me.
who it is.
Spaz, you weren't here for the beginning when we actually did the introduction, so please go ahead and introduce yourself, promote yourself, where people will find you, and then we'll see if there's any final comments, and then wrap this thing up.
I'm Spaz. Like it says down the bottom, you can find me at the Rocky Classic on Twitter.
It actually says Trojan Hunter. I fixed it for you.
It does say
Yeah.
Trojan Hunter. Yes, thank you.
Or Trojan.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and the Voice of College Football Oregon Live Tuesdays 7 p.m. Pacific and Saturdays post game about 45 minutes after the game every Saturday with Ben, Derek, and Sean. Bleh.
That was smooth, very
Real
smooth. You embarrass me. Like you make me look really bad.
He does it
Yeah.
every show. Too,
Yeah.
man. Like, you got to step it up.
I let him do the talking. I'm just like, hey, I'm just here. I'm just the other guy. So, well, any other?
Who's winless in our, mind you guys, who's still winless in our weekly scoring forecasts. Ben is still 0-9, I believe, now in the season.
Damn. You're the Ben. You're the other Oregon guy, and when Ben is here, you're the other Ben. What do you even do?
Not enough, I guess. Well, is there any other important games for this upcoming week that we want to talk about, or any other news, events, special things?
I got nothing.
Yep.
But I'm also, my brain is also fried. It's 12:15 a.m. Eastern time. So
I like the sound. I like the sound of that. Tim, your brain looks fried.
It's been Friday when I showed up here, but I'd be here. I'm here. So, yeah. Well, I mean, Serge wants us to talk about Colorado. Sean Lewis. Honestly, I don't care about Colorado enough to talk about it. You guys go ahead if you want.
No,
We talked about Colorado the first like 5 games this season, way more than we should have. I think they've got there a lot this year.
It didn't work. It didn't work out that well. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
Hey, you guys, if you haven't got enough of the talk, listen, go make sure you check out the Alex Grinch video. It's over on USC channel. It's pretty good. You can enjoy all of the Trojan misery, but also happiness during that video.
Does he have crying tears too?
No, but one of the podcasts that did the Grinch had the Grinch with the tear emojis coming out. Yeah.
Oh damn, that would have been great to see.
Just for you, Spaz.
look like there's talk about Ole Miss versus Georgia next week. It was briefly brought up, but not very much.
Yeah, I mean it's I just old Lane Kiffin winning a big game. Yeah, I don't. That doesn't happen. So,
And that's
for me to get up for it.
Beat LSU.
Yeah.
Man.
So LSU's got
That's
3.
Brian Kelly. Everyone beats Brian Kelly.
Right.
Especially in big games in the postseason.
Yeah,
Big game, Brian. Yeah.
yeah, that's what he does.
I don't think that Ole Miss's defense is going to do. I think Judkins is probably a top. I would say at absolute worst top 5 back in the country. Jackson Dart's probably top 10 quarterback. But
Yeah,
this
I mean
is
they're
a
cooking.
defense.
Yeah, no, they don't. They just but and they can be they've been slowed down at times this year. Like I don't see it. And Georgia's I think they're gonna be successful offensively, and they're gonna get enough defensively. They're gonna get enough stops. Like I think Georgia wins pretty comfortably. It's one of those. I mean, it's an important game, but it's hard to get excited for it. Even though Georgia and Ole Miss, obviously, they don't play that much, so I should be more excited about it. But I just don't think Ole Miss I'd be really shocked if Ole Miss were to kept this game somewhat competitive, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Oh, and it looks like somebody mentioned Miami and Florida State. I don't think that's going to be much of a game either.
I don't know. Well, Florida State was kind of on the struggle bus against Pitt for a good bit on Saturday.
Yeah, for a good bit.
Yeah, but I mean, Miami's lost to the who's who of crap in the ACC.
But as Duck fans, we know Cristobal plays up and down the competition. So
yeah, I mean, they get. But I was going to say they
go
got
like 2 overtimes or something with Florida State.
Yeah,
weird. Like
it would not surprise me if that game. And plus, it's a rivalry. I mean, those teams hate each other. You kind of have to throw the records out the window to a certain degree. So it wouldn't surprise me if Miami would, they got it for A&M, they got it for Clemson.
Let's stop. FSU's going to destroy them.
I agree.
Maybe, but I've seen this Florida State team that kind of play with their food a little bit.
Well, I mean,
it really cost them a few times.
I mean, if they can lose at home to Georgia Tech and then turn around and beat Florida State, really, what does that say about your conference?
Yeah,
well, I think it says. Well, honestly, the ACC is just that. I mean, based off of if we were doing the whole transitive property thing, I mean, Notre Dame has lost to 2 ACC teams, and that was Ohio State's claim to fame until they beat Penn State. So I'm just saying, maybe the ACC is just that good. I don't know. That transitive property.
Or Ohio State's not. But moving on from that.
I think that's a great way to end this show. I'm going to retitle it The Transitive Property Show. And we can have a whole nother discussion about this at another day, because this could go just wild. If we want to go that route.
The ACC is just that good. It's just a gauntlet. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, Jordan.
All right, everyone. I think we're in a good spot. We're actually going to be early tonight. We're not going to drag this out forever like we have been for a couple weeks there.
What? No 3-hour show?
We can do this if you want.
No, I'm good.
Okay, there we go. That's what I thought. So thank you, everyone, all the panel people here, but of course, everyone in the chat, all the super chat, the chats that were sent in, those are greatly appreciated. Please, if you haven't, make sure you hit that like button. It helps the show, helps the channel. Make sure you subscribe. Check out all these guys here on all the other channels and their post games and weekly shows, as well as like the Pac-12 show, the Oregon show, Clemson post games, as well as then check out Jackson Johnson down in the corner and all the stuff he's doing. Follow him on Twitter, as well as the Rocky Classic below. I am just me, Ben, and we know what to do now. Oh shit, I hit the wrong button. That one was me. That was me. That was me. That was me. Good night, everyone, and we will see you next week on After Dark Show.
Go Blue.